the importance of, especially right now, diversity.
Okay.
I talk to C-levels every week, multiple hiring managers at the C-suite. Most
Okay.
of the contact I have as a president of my company is all either CROs or CEOs. And just in the last week, I have had CEOs call me and say, listen, I have got to have a diversity hire. There is no brown or black folks in positions of leadership or senior sales, and I need that ASAP. And this is just in the last week, Justin. So this is just something I want your viewers to understand. If you're in an SDR, you're entry level, keep on moving up, because there's places for you. There's a seat at the table if you're good. So let's get you in that seat.
Tech family, the value in this interview is literally about to change your life. Thomas Robinson's career in tech sales began with CareerBuilder.com, where he became the director of national accounts on the enterprise level. And then, while working for Monster, he was the global sales director for Monster Worldwide. And eventually, he worked for RevsUp as the vice president of talent. And now he is the president of ScoutLab.io, a data-driven staffing firm. And listen, he is bringing all of the value. Understood. Thank you for sharing that, Thomas.
Yeah.
I do appreciate it. What is, and I mean, maybe it's self-explanatory, but what do you think is triggering that right now?
Great question. I don't think it's anything new. I think it's been around. When I was, at Career Builder and Monster, we actually had classes to teach C-levels how to search for diversity. So it's nothing new. It's always been an issue. For time immemorial, it's been an issue of trying to get minorities in places of positions of leadership. And believe me, there's enough of us, they just don't know how to do it. So that's where people like me come in, who has a seat at the table already and helps folks find the right people.
Right. Can you unpack that a little more for me, Thomas? Meaning that the minorities, they're out there to be hired, but where's the difficulty coming from when it comes to navigating?
It's internal.
That's
a great question. That's a great question. It's internal, and a lot of it is window dressing. I was talking to one of my mentors the other day about how, if you look a lot of the chief diversity officers, the senior human resource officers, they like to put brown people in those positions, give them a title, give them a mission statement, but they don't give them any money. So a lot of it has, and I'm going to tell you, it's been window dressing in the past. I think now we are seeing a little bit of a shift where you see some of these mistakes that people make, and they make them because there's not someone in the room that looks like us to tell them, oh, wait, don't do that. Don't put that marketing piece out there. Don't do this. And it's because they don't have people that look like us in a room making that decision. And I've seen that over and over again. I could give you example.
Yeah.
So I think because it's hitting them in the pocketbook, I think we're seeing a significant sea change.
Understood. That makes sense now. I never viewed it that way, even from being able to have input from a marketing and a recruiting standpoint of how do you attract like the minority or diverse talent.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Understood. All right. So question for you.
Yeah.
Sir Thomas, what is it like being a proven expert in the sales profession?
That's a good question. It's a funny question because I certainly, I don't feel like an expert. I guess with my experience and as long as I've been doing it in talent acquisition and in human capital, I guess I am. And I think it's rewarding being able to have, again, I've said it before, a seat at the table in the C-suite and help make decisions and help companies, multi-billion-dollar companies make these hiring decisions and help them design a process. I love being in that position. And at the same time, I've always been there, since I got into sales and moved into enterprise. I've always, enterprise sales is a different ballgame from just regular SMB, mid-market. It's a consultative sale where you're selling to the C-suite and your goal is to get in front of the C-suite. And so being able to have a seat in front of the C-suite, help them solve problems has been very rewarding. And I love being in that position.
Yeah. So I have a question. I know I'm not following the script now that I put in front of us, but I'm just curious. So someone in my shoes, right? I'm newer to this. I am
Yep.
I am navigating the right mindset. I'm navigating the level of confidence that I need to have when I am in front of certain people in power, right? And just talking to someone like you, and obviously hearing that confidence, hearing that expression.
Yep.
When did that come, Thomas? Like, was that something in your ability to stand before people in C-suite levels, have a seat at the table? Was your personality always like this from a confidence standpoint, or?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And yeah. Yes. But it takes practice. It takes being a subject matter expert. It takes knowing the organizational landscape of who you're talking to. You got to be an expert. My father was the first Black surgeon in East Lansing, Michigan.
Wow.
So, and this was years ago. I'm 55. I don't mind sharing my age. I'm older. I was born only 6 months after Martin Luther King was murdered. So I grew up in a different time. And so I grew up in an all-white community, and my parents knew that the best in order to thrive in that position. I think if my dad had a chance to do it all over again, I don't think he would put me in that community, but it was great. I thrived. I was homecoming king. It was a great time for me in life, but I gained confidence because my parents wanted me to understand that I wasn't different from anybody else. So sitting in front of the C-suite, it comes from getting that confidence from being successful and failing a whole bunch of times, but having that spirit of saying, you know what, I know that I can do this. I'm not scared. I've learned, I've put in the work. I've done the research. I've done my discovery to put it back to take it back to a sales piece. I've done the research so I can have an intelligent conversation with you. And it's funny that you bring that up, because when I was at Career Builder, there was a bunch of young, smart, intelligent sales reps, and we were selling to, C-suite, people with gray hair. We were all in our 20s, and we called it telling you your baby is ugly. So we're talking to people, telling them their process that they built, sometimes HR people that they built, that their process was bad and broken as a young kid coming in there. So you better have some data behind that.
Wow.
If you're going to tell a C-suite that something that he's doing is broken, you better have some data behind that to prove to him that it's broken. So I learned from some really good people. I had some, and one of the questions, I know we're jumping all around.
Go, please.
Down here are about mentors that I answered. You got to have a good mentor. You have to have someone that understands this game, that believes in you, will talk about you in rooms that are closed and wants to get you in those rooms. And that's important. So I think that confidence comes from research and just knowing your business, knowing your game.
All right.
Become an expert.
All right. So Thomas, you probably guess I'm not going to stick to like that.
No, I knew this was going to
right. I have to go to this question with this. Okay. So understanding that you have an organization, you're the president of ScoutLab.io, a data-driven staffing agency, finding the very best talent in the market for rapidly scaling sales teams.
Yeah.
I just have to know, what is it that you look for in a candidate when you're going through a vetting process?
That's a great question, and it varies. And that's a really good question, because there's not one answer. It all depends on the ideal candidate profile that the client has given us.
Okay.
So I go through a process called a needs analysis, where I sit down with either the CRO, the SVP of sales, the contract. The contract gets closed in the C-suite. Sometimes the process gets pushed down to the hiring manager, which will be a VP of sales or an SVP of sales, but it's all driven from the C-suite. Okay. I sit down with those folks and I go through a pretty lengthy process. It takes about 30 minutes of about 20 questions of exactly what their ideal candidate profile is, where they need to live, what their tenures need to be, what's their base salary ranges, what is their companies that they need to hire from, companies that you don't want to hire from. It's an in-depth process that we go through. And so it all depends. So once I get that ideal candidate profile, there are a couple things that my team will look at. And this is important for your folks to hear. And that's one of the things, aside from everything else, is tenures. So it's important to stay at a company for at least a year. If you've got a bunch of tenures that pop from 3 months, I was here for 4 months, I was here for 6 months, hiring managers, and even the LinkedIn algorithm, recruiters, it'll get kicked out. They're not ever going to see your resume because your tenures are so short. So tenures is really important.
Wow.
And also in this day and age, it used to be sales athletes were awesome. And for some of your folks who aren't familiar with what a sales athlete is, that's somebody who can just sell anything in IT. So I've been a constant President's Club winner. I've sold, I was 110% of quota for 5 years in a row. That's a sales athlete.
Okay.
It used to be a lot of C-levels would say, just find me a sales athlete. Over the last couple of years, it's been, sales athletes aren't good enough. I need somebody from a direct competitor, someone directly in my space, someone who understands the nomenclature of our business, as opposed to just a great salesperson. So that's changed a little bit. So when I'm looking for that great candidate, I need 10 years. And once my team or myself, because I sometimes still interview, I need to see some energy. I need to see, you're a salesperson. It's easy to judge us. It's all about numbers. So I got to see your numbers, and I want to see some energy. I want to see some energy.
Okay. So what's the ideal way to open up an interview as a salesperson, Thomas? What type of demeanor are you looking for the salesperson to come out talking, greeting, asking questions?
Our process is a little bit different. We send out, we're nailed down with our process. You get a survey prior, so I know who you are. You filled out a 10 questions questionnaire for my team about who you are, what you've done, where you've been, why you're looking to leave. So I know all of that. It's a 15-minute interview, and I'm looking to get facts and data and why you want to interview for this position. What are your qualifications of this position? So I'll ask what your selling motion is, what your prospecting cadence has been. What are your KPIs? And for some folks that some of your entry-level BDRs, that's key performance indicators. How many calls you're making, how many dials you're making, how many emails you're sending out, how are you judged? Those are the things I ask in every interview. And then that goes to my client. Our notes go to the client. And so that's what we ask. But I get all of that out of the way. So our interviews are not about trying to impress me. It's about data. This is software, baby. It's about data. I want to know, what have you done? And can you do it again? Is it repeatable? And that's a really important part of the process. You've done it before, but do you have a repeatable process, or did you just luck out into this? And I'll uncover that.
All right. So yes, I feel like a rookie now. Thank you, Thomas. I really do feel like
you're not, man. You're not.
So it's a couple of things you said. So for one, my generation of people who's been entering tech sales in the wave that my wife and I came in, it seems to be this misconception of tenure, right? People who came in my wave seem to somehow think that it's okay to job hop, to just kind of stay on a job for a brief while, jump to the bigger salary. And not everybody, and I don't err on that side.
There's something to be said about that with your generation. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Go.
But I have read that. I've seen it. I've seen people talk about it. And I've seen people talk about that's the way to increase their salary. And for certain positions, I understand that. For sales positions, which is what we're talking about, it makes zero sense because your base salary is your base salary. I will tell you something right now. I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, Justin. You're never going to get a raise. Your base is your base. Okay. I don't care if you're the number one rep for 3 years in a row. The only way you get a raise is if you get a promotion from an AE to a senior AE or a senior AE to an enterprise AE. That's the only reason your salary is ever going to go up. You're ever going to go up. Okay. Your compensation is all about what you're selling. So there's no reason to job hop for a $20,000 increase in base salary if your back end is still both going to be 230 and 230. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Woo! Okay. And then you touched on, is the numbers that you're putting up, is it repeatable? Right. That's something that I have been racking my brain lately on, really wanting to nail down for myself.
Yep.
Right. I got promoted to AE after about 4 months.
Congratulations. That's awesome. I love hearing that.
Thank you. I finally really started getting the grasp, and I'm performing extremely high right now for the company. But Thomas, basically every day, every evening, I'm going back through and I'm trying to really figure out what is causing the performance to be high every
That's a
day?
great question, Justin. Whatever you're doing, bottle it up and keep doing it. Right. So as a sales leader, we look at our top performers, and there's patterns. There's certain behaviors that you're exhibiting, that you're doing, that you don't know. So you need to start monitoring. What CRM are you using?
We're using Salesforce.
So you're in Salesforce. You can track your own activity. You can track what you're doing. Just figure out you have consistent. You clearly have some consistent behaviors. So you'd be surprised how many sales reps do not have consistent behaviors, who luck up and hit a home run, and then they suck for 3 months, and then they hit another home run and they suck for 3 months. You clearly have some consistent behaviors. I'm telling you, all of us have 90% of us in sales have ADD. I do. You might not. You may be a lucky one, and you just happen to do these things over and over again. So your consistency is really going to make you. It's going to give you longevity in this business. Because I'll tell you, even though this is a very lucrative business, and there's a high burnout rate, because this is hard. This is a hard job. It takes a lot. It takes a special person to get 10 no's, 11 no's, 13 no's, 20 no's for that one yes. Not everybody can do that. That one yes, boom, feels good. But all those no's, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can take that type of beat down, even though it's lucrative. And your bosses are yelling at you because you don't have that, it's the end of the quarter and you're not there yet. You're off your number by 20% or whatever. It takes a special person to live that life. It's not easy, but it's lucrative. And it sounds like you've got a great system.
Yes. So yes, and I'm not completely ignorant to my system, for the record, Thomas. I'm not fully ignorant.
Yeah.
I just really want to know, how can I continue to replicate this month to month?
Right.
And Thomas, look, I apologize for not staying on script. and seriously, I'm enjoying. I figured I would enjoy it, but I'm enjoying this just way more than I really knew. And just the value that's in front of the audience right now.
Yeah.
I really kind of want to ride this wave. So
let's go.
The burnout. Let me ask this question first.
Sure.
How would you say a person should identify if tech sales is for them to enter?
That's a great question. I saw that question, and everybody has a different answer, Justin. So, again, sales, and here's a good observation that I've shared multiple times, especially with entry-level folks trying to break into this. SaaS sales is extremely prohibitive to get in. There are so many barriers to entry for SaaS. You have to, I have had people that W-2 at $1 million selling hardware, selling something else. They've made $1 million a year, that SaaS companies won't look at them because they don't have SaaS experience. So there's a lot of barriers to entry to get into SaaS, right? So getting into SaaS is hard to begin with. The problem is, once you're in, it's hard work, man. It's like I was just saying, getting told no over and over and over again. It takes a special person. So I can't answer that question of, I just can't answer that question because every person is different.
You've said
this isn't for everybody. Some people get in it and don't last a year and they're out. And that's what I would caution folks, and know what you're getting into before you're into it. Read some sales books. Yeah. Read some stories. Find people that have been in it. Talk to some AEs and some BDRs. Understand what it's like making 50 dials a day, 5 days a week, 70 dials a day, 5 days a week. That is not for the faint-hearted. You know that. You've done it. But you saw the carrot.
Yeah.
A lot of people will see that carrot and go, I'm gonna do this. Look at this person driving this Porsche. I'm gonna do this. The work that goes behind that Porsche is the same work that goes behind a physician or an attorney or an investment banker. You got to put in the work.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work.
Yeah.
So
that's encouraging.
Yeah.
For me, and probably for many people viewing, that's encouraging to me.
Yes.
Because, and I've heard from other people in the field, obviously from interviewing people on the channel when I was coming into the field. I like the idea of viewing tech sales as something that is a profession that I need to approach with the understanding that I have to prepare for this.
Yeah.
I have to methodically educate myself, train myself beyond just, hey, here's my resume, thanks for hiring me, and I'm just gonna hope luck up at the luck of a draw on having success week to week. I like the fact that I'm a professional at this, and I'm gonna prepare myself to the point where you can look at my performance and you can look at the work that went into that to show, oh yeah, this dude is a professional.
See, you got it. You got it. That's it. That it's, I'm telling you, that carrot at the end, some people see it and they think, like you just said, you are approaching this professionally. You are approaching this as a career. Justin, what job is going to pay you $150,000 for half-assing it? Is there a job out there that's going to pay you $200,000 that puts you in the top 5% of all income in the United States of America? Is there a job that you can do where you can half-ass it and pretend, I'm just going to go, I'm going to do this, and this is what people are making? People who are successful in tech sales don't get successful just because I'm just going to do tech sales. It's not like that, my friend. Yes. This is a career.
Yes.
So that whole course careers things that y'all did, it's a career. They had you read books for a reason. Those books are going to help you.
Yes, sir.
You understand? So you get it.
Yes, sir. Okay, so tell me this, Thomas. God, I got to look to even see what I want to ask. All right. Look, if you got something you want to talk about, you can jump in. I'm about to ask a question.
Okay.
All right. Let me just touch this while we were on it. How does a person who has figured out that they feel like tech sales is for them, they started it, they're doing okay, but they're experiencing that burnout, that, oh, this is a lot of work. Is there even any advice that you can give to a person on how to prevent themselves from burnout? Are people really landing jobs like that in tech sales after going through course careers? Well, quite a few. But before you dive all the way in, just check out their free course on their website. And if for some reason the course is not for you, there's a 14-day money-back guarantee. And be sure to save yourself $50 by using the link in the description. Back to the video.
Education. I mean, I always go back to that. Education, and know what you're getting yourself into, first of all.
Okay.
And I'll go back to the mentor piece. Grab someone in this space that has done it, that has been in this space, that has done it.
Okay.
And develop a relationship with them.
Okay.
Whew, so, and I mean, I think that's the one thing I can tell you. That the easy part also is to become I've said it before earlier on the show, become an expert. Do your research. Read at night. Readers are leaders. Read at night. Read books about your industry. Read books about sales. Again, this is a profession. You're not just a salesperson and you go to bed and you wake up and you do sales, and then you go to bed and then you wake up and do sales. This is a lifestyle. It's a profession. Become an expert. Okay. Invest in yourself in this. Your question about burnout, that happens to all of us. It's happened to me. It just happens to all of us. There's only so much you can take. I got to a point where I was on 3 or 4 planes a week. I had a young child at the time. I was making a ton of money. I was very successful, but my home life, I wanted to be home. I wanted to be at soccer practice. I wanted to be at his band performances.
Yeah.
There was certain times it was different now. You guys do a lot of remote stuff. Back in the day, I was in front of clients all the time. I'm old, and I know I'm old. And back in the day, young man, that's how we did it. But yeah, I mean, I was expected to spend $5,000 or $6,000 a month on travel and entertainment. If I wasn't spending that, I got yelled at.
Wow.
Yeah.
Different. Yeah, that's a different. That's different, right?
It is. Oh,
we're all jumping into tech sales because we get to sit at home, Thomas.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I tell you, I miss the nice hotels and the ridiculous food that I ate, but it was a different time. Goodness. But I will tell you this: I much prefer sitting in my office at home than being in an airport.
Understood. Yeah, and I do want to get into a little bit about your background and you talking about that. I want to ask this first. However you want to answer this, how lucrative can tech sales be? That's a big question.
That's such a loaded question. Let's put it this way. I started out in tech sales. I'm just going to tell you, I started out at Career Builder. I want to say in 2005, something like that. So a long time ago, 18, whatever. I'm terrible at math. Don't ask me any math questions. But around 05, 06, I think I started out at Career Builder, and it was, I think if you had to look at what Career Builder was back in the day, we were doing Super Bowl commercials. We were heavy back in the day. If you look at Salesforce or Gong, that would be the equivalent of what's happening now. We had a bunch of young, extremely bright people there. Most of my colleagues, I have made a bunch of friends. We had offices all over the country. They all have multi-million-dollar homes. They all their kids go to private schools. They all have beachfront property. It's a lucrative business.
Wow.
I have a lot of friends that are experienced enterprise reps that make, $7 to $1 million every year after year. It's a lot of money.
That's a whole lot.
That's generational shift type of money for your family. And again, that's the beauty about SaaS and tech. Once you're in it and you're good at it and you realize you're good at it, it's a never ending field of new companies coming in with new technology and new software, and there's just all kinds of opportunity, and there's leadership positions. And so if you can get in this game and you can withstand the onslaught of being in hell for a while, which you already went through pretty quickly, but sales is a never ending hell. It's kind of is what it is. It's the only job where it starts over every month. You know what I mean? And then I don't care how great you were in July, awesome, great. August 1, you're back to square one, buddy. So it's hell. It's Dante's Inferno. But the but is the great part. It's so unbelievably lucrative. That's why it pays so well, because it's hard. Do you think if this was easy, it would pay what it does?
Right.
It wouldn't.
Right. Look, and I'm still encouraged.
Yeah, you should be.
Even how you're saying it starts over every month. But if I can become a professional, Thomas, if I can prepare myself on the back end to where when I go into a month, I know what I'm doing.
That's it.
Right? I fire up my computer. It ain't guessing.
Justin, that's it. Your pipeline, if you've got 10x in your pipeline because you worked your ass off for 2 months and you keep that up, even if you miss 1 month of quota, you're not going to miss 2 months. You're not going to miss your quarterly bonus because you're putting in the work. Fill your pipeline, do the work, and you're fine. Get whatever X that your company wants you to have in your pipeline, 5X, 10X, whatever. They want 3X, put in 4X. They want 4X, put in 5X. Fill the pipeline because you will ensure your success.
Yes.
Justin, you will ensure your success.
Yes.
It's not easy.
Yes.
You got kids. You got a family to raise.
Yes.
But you do the work now, buddy. Private school for all of them.
Understood. All right. So I want to talk a little bit. I want to hear from you, Thomas, about your background. So, obviously.
Let me throw one caveat in there.
Go.
I keep talking about private school. We send our kids to public school because we chose to do that, just so you know. But if you want to send your kid, that my wife's a teacher, whole 9 yards. There's a whole private school, public school conversation. But if you want to send your kids to private school, you will have the means to do it. So, all right, go back to I want to just throw that out there.
Understood.
Not advocating private school.
Understood. I'm gonna jump back to because I want to know kind of your thoughts on the best way that a person, I guess if they don't have any sales experience, like how would they prepare to? I don't want you to answer that yet, but what should they do? What kind of training? What kind of job should they go for if they have?
I should be asking you that because you did it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm serious.
Okay.
I looked at your background. You were selling cars, man.
Okay.
Sell anything, and then go to Course Careers, figure out this tech deal, read some books, and get in it. And you got to get in it as an SDR or a BDR. I have a client right now. That'll do $100 million in revenue in 2024. Or I'm sorry, by the end of 2023. My relationship is with the CEO and the CRO. I'm filling 5 BDR positions right now, and they need diversity. My LinkedIn will be at the bottom, folks. So let's go. And this BDR role is not a $50,000, $60,000 BDR role. It's an 80 to 90, possibly 100 BDR role with a fast track to an AE position. So my point is to answer your question, do what you did. start out as a BDR, get your butt kicked for a few months. And one thing I will say this, Justin, as a sales leader, we will find you. If you're good as a BDR, I'll find you. You got found in 4 months. That's not rare because so many BDRs start out, they realize it's not for them and they burn out. The BDRs that are good, we find you quick. Wow. And you got found quick because you're good.
Whew. Gosh, this is encouraging. Thank you, Thomas. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just if you want to start, I'm not saying childhood, but what caused you to want to enter into tech sales?
I was the black sheep of the family. My sister's an attorney. Everybody in my family is in the healthcare field. My father was a surgeon. My mother was a geriatric specialist. We went to good schools. I was a terrible student. I was an athlete. I played college hockey, in the NCAA Division I college hockey. I moved to Canada for a year. I focused on sports. I hated school. I was going to go to law school, and I thought, there's no way I can do another 3 years of school. I can't do it. So I went to an engineering school where all my buddies graduated and got, $50,000 a year jobs to start. And that's great. I got into sales and I made more than all of them at my first sales job, which was, I'm going to seriously date myself, selling cell phones to companies and numeric pagers to companies. I ground so hard that I set up displays in bars that I used to go to in college. And I'd go and people would they would order pagers from my display in the most popular bars in my college town. I had a Isuzu Rodeo. I put a sticker on the side of my truck. I've always been a hustler. And I knew that in order to make the kind of money that I wanted to make, I was going to need to be in sales. There was no way I could sit at a desk at a job and do a job and make $60,000 and go home to that job and go home every day for the rest of my life. I couldn't do it. So sales was the only answer for me.
Wow.
That was it. So I jumped off into sales and, I never looked back. I'll never forget my first software sales role. I think I was 23 and it was for a company called Dialogic, and we sold like the security software it was an alert and auto dialer software that would dial all these people in this chain in case some kind of emergency happened, whether it was terrorists, whether it was hurricanes. We had large contracts with New Orleans. So my first trip alone was to the Chicago Mercantile, in Chicago, huge company, trading company, Wrigley building. I think I was on the 35th floor. I'm by myself. I wasn't even old enough to rent a car. This was back in the day, Justin, when you had to print out directions on your printer from MapQuest. You don't even know what that is. So I'm printing out MapQuest directions from the airport to get to the hotel. I'll never forget. I walked in there, beautiful cherry wood office. I'm 23. So sitting at this table, mahogany table, he's sitting across from me. He makes about 1.2 million bucks a year, 1.3, whatever. I'm just this kid. And I'll never forget looking around going, I love this. I need to figure out a way to stay in this environment. I wasn't an expert at the time. It's my first solo trip without my boss. I think I bombed it. I know I didn't get the deal. I know that. But I just knew at that moment that this is where I wanted to live and play. This is where I need to be.
Wow.
And so I got recruited over to Career Builder shortly after that. And not shortly after that. I had a few stops in between. But I had a buddy of mine call me and say, hey, there's a job at Career Builder. Are you interested? And I had a recruiter call me. Interview. It's totally different back in the day. So I went and met with the manager there and his boss, who was this kid walks in a tank top and flip flops. He's going to open the London office the next day, and his name was Michael Odell. His dad was Spike O'Neill, famous guy in Chicago with the Cubs, well-known family. And he's sitting there in flip flops, and I was hired pretty much on the spot. That was my first SaaS. We didn't call it SaaS back in the day, but that was my first SaaS sales role. That my first day on the job was a Tuesday. I was on a plane on Wednesday, the next day in Charlotte, and I met the manager of the office in Charlotte, being my first partner in the recruiting business, 4 or 5 years ago. Still good friends. I talk to him every other day. So another thing I want to tell you about is make relationships along the way, build and cultivate relationships with people along the way in this business, because they're going to be with you the whole ride. It's a great ride. And I had a great time at Career Builder. We got to be the number one office in the country. I was the number one rep for a year. I won a Rolex. You know, I was the first rep in company history to ever fly on a client's private jet, which was awesome. And that was a whole nother story. Did you freeze again? Did you freeze on me?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
A whole nother story. The largest home builder in the United States of America, owned by Warren Buffett. And I don't mind telling this story. We call them the OWGs. They're based in the hills of Tennessee. All OWGs, old white guys. I walk in there and I tell them their baby's ugly. This is what you're doing wrong, blah, blah, blah. And over 4 or 5 years, I became friends with all of the executives. They were great people, wound up on their private jet, still talk to them. But it's a great story. I had one guy actually tell me that at some of their meetings, this one guy said, you know, in the truck out there, that guy may be in a suit in here, but there may be a Klan robe in his truck. True story. That's what he told me. This guy was great. So yeah, they sell mobile homes. So, but they're the largest home builder in the country. It's a Warren Buffett company. They're the largest home builder in the world, and that was my client. And I was the first one ever in the history of our company to be on a private jet for our client, and that was them. I'll send you a picture.
Yes, please do, Thomas.
Yeah.
Oh my
story.
goodness.
So yeah, I've got some great stories, man. You know, sales is a ride. It's a fun ride. It's a lucrative ride. If you have the thick skin to be in it, if you're willing to make the sacrifices to do it, you know, do it, because I've mentioned it over and over again, Justin. Generational wealth. You know, you and your wife are doing. I mean, you guys got dual tech income. You know, just grind it out.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, whatever you want to share, what would you say your career has afforded you? Just
freedom. That's the key. You know, I was talking to one of my mentors today. I had lunch with her. I'm going to give her a shout out. Her name is Jackie Akbari. She's been voted over and over again the most powerful woman in the state of Tennessee. She's awesome. This is the kind of person that you need in your life. All of you, mentors that will open doors that you don't have the keys to. Someone who's going to talk about you in rooms that you can't get into. You want those people in your life. That's what this person is to me. And we were talking about that today, and kind of what this lifestyle has afforded us. You know, freedom is the key. You talk about liabilities and assets. That's what we were talking about. I'm not going to throw her business out there, but someone in her family just bought something really expensive. I'm talking, that's a liability. That's not an asset. So I know people like to flex on the Lambos and the Porsches and whatnot. I've had 4 BMWs. I have one sitting in the driveway right now that I refuse to get fixed because I live in the city and I don't drive anywhere anyway. I'm cheap. But you know, I've bought a couple homes. It's been a great ride for us. Took my family to Europe last year. My son paying cash for college for my kid. You know, just things like that, able to take care of my parents as they get aging parents. And that's something that some of you younger folks got to keep in mind. There's not only college, there's aging parents as you get older. So having that ability to be able to do what you want when you want to do it. Because not many jobs, I'll tell you, like, you guys are new to this game. You know, most jobs that you talk to people, I've got 2 weeks vacation every year, 3 weeks, you know, whatever. And sales, you really don't. You can take, another great story. One of my dear friends, I worked with a career builder. He hit quota his 3rd month of the year. The first year I started at Career Builder, and he left out. He went and spent 8 months in Asia, traveling Asia. Stayed employed. He hit his yearly quota the first 3 months of the year and bounced to Asia.
Oh my goodness.
That's the kind of thing you can do. Still a legendary story. We still talk about it.
Thomas, I'm ready to go to work tomorrow, sir. I'm telling you, I am edified.
Yeah, good. I wanted to come on here, and I have not done this before. This is the first podcast I've ever done, ever in my life, because I'm busy. I don't have time for this. But watching you, and you, saw you on Tech is the New Black. I thought I really need to. I've been doing this a long time, a lot longer than a lot of these kids, and I need to tell some of my stories. I need to be out here so they can see I've been doing this a long time, and I want to share what it's been like and where you guys are at today, because all of you are in a great spot, a great position, and the more of us in it, the better. And I love seeing it. We are in demand. We need diverse people at tables everywhere, from startups to Fortune 500s. We need you. So that's what I'm here for.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Thomas. Look, on that note, I done got lost all in the sauce on my question list.
We can do this again, man.
Yeah.
We can do it again.